All right, now we're going to wrap the 7 developmental stages up this week by introducing you to your 17 to 21-year-old. Now, anytime somebody says to me, I just don't know what I want to be when I grow up, it's a clue to me that they're stuck in this stage, and what they're stuck in is that they never got to properly leave home. And so a part of them is still stuck back in that transition. 17 to 21 is all about gender differences, getting comfortable with that, identifying what we want to do. It's a little softer developmental stage than the 15 to 17-year-old. You can sit down and you can have some really nice, insightful conversations with a 17 to 21-year-old. If they're not off and running with the drugs, that is. 17 to 21-year-olds are really setting the foundation for our true mastery. And this is the part of self that we take into adulthood. This is the part of self who protects all the younger ages. This is the part of self who begins really thinking about what he or she wants to do in the world and how they can move forward. So it's a very strategic time in our lives where we're really beginning to carve out how we move forward. Again, this stage correlates with the infant stage because it's having to do the same type of task. It's having to figure out how to move into the adult world and fit in. As an infant, we're seeing how we can get our needs met in our family, and the environment is all new. As a 17 to 21-year-old, the issues are revisited, except now the backdrop of that experience is really the moving into the adult world, defining ourselves as a couple, defining our sexuality. Now, as you've seen through these developmental stages, and with all of the audios and the tapping that I've interfaced with it, and the bundling of baggage this week will really address that kind of issue of bundling all the anxiety of not being ready for the adult world. And then, of course, you'll have the bundling of the baggage of the grief, which is saying goodbye to childhood as you move into this next transition of life. So any of the issues you had about going to college or not going to college, any of the regrets about decisions that you made or didn't make at that time in your life will be revisited, and we'll start addressing those a little bit, certainly in the material, but also in the bundling of the baggage of the grief from this stage. Now, what you're in store for now that you have gone through all these developmental stages after this week is for the next 7 weeks, but 5 to 7, I think, I haven't quite figured it out. But now what we're going to do is we're going to take each of these developmental stages and we are going to interface those with areas of concern. So that's what you have to look forward to next week. And we'll start off with how each of these developmental stages progressively emerge in the evolution of an intimate relationship. How the infant shows up, how the toddler shows up in terms of boundaries, how the shame and guilt shows up, and how it progressively moves into, hopefully, a healthy, intimate relationship with a loved one. So, we still have our work ahead of us. Thanks. Again, you're doing a great job. You've made it through the original Inner Child Workbook. And so now we're going to be going into new material again. Thanks. I'll see you next week.